Hey guys, my name is Paula Sun, but you can call me the Change Navigator. I mean, that's why you clicked on the podcast because of the name, right? All right, cool. I want to begin by saying welcome to my new listeners and welcome back to the Faithful Navigators. We are here in season three, and if you all have been listening, season three is all about the pivot. And we know that pivot means to simply reposition or turn, not something major, not something big, but a small move that'll give you a major outcome. So today we have a very special guest on the podcast. His name is Mr. Albert Donald. And let me give you a little bit of information about him. Albert is a marketing and branding professional with over 7 years of experience in brand strategy, marketing, budget management, campaign development, as well as endorsements and sponsorships within the sports industry. He has proven success building and establishing a long lasting brand for clients, especially with an international focus. He possesses strong verbal and written communication, as well as interpersonal skills to close deals and establish mutually beneficial relationships for clientele. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Mr. Albert Donald to the podcast. Welcome, Albert.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on.
Most definitely. Albert, could you tell the navigators a little bit more about yourself? That was just something that I just kind of highlighted and kind of grabbed from your LinkedIn page. But can you tell the navigators a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm basically in the sports industry if I can just cover with a couple words, but specifically in management and marketing. And so I kind of found myself navigating, through the sports world from ever since about 2008. Kind of found myself as an account executive with the NBA G League, RGV Vipers, and kind of began my career there. I had a background in finance, and so I was able to kind of work with some athletes on that front before getting pulled into the management world as a business manager, and then again to navigate through the industry, got into marketing and consulting, and kind of found myself here today speaking with you to tell the rest of the story.
Gotcha. So marketing and consulting. And navigators, listen, Albert and I met in early 2020 or late 2019, early 2020. We
Yeah.
met because Albert was working for the XFL Houston Roughnecks. He was in the marketing division. And so
Right.
I was working as a marketing brand manager for Southwest Spirits and Wine Distillery, and we had a couple of spirits brands. So Albert and I were trying to form a relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship for both parties, for his company as well as my company. So we were working on this project, and we were looking to secure my company as a sponsor for
Right.
the Houston Roughnecks. And at the time, Houston was undefeated. This was the
Oh my
inaugural
God.
season, right? Inaugural season
Right.
of the
Yep. Yep.
XFL. So I mean, they were blazing. They were the buzz. I mean, it was promising.
Right.
Everything was looking good. So we are getting close to closing the deal to where we are a sponsor for that team. And then here comes the pandemic. Here comes the pandemic.
Hey.
And so here's what happened. So
Man.
Alvin and I, we were like, okay, we got to pivot. So we decided, okay, let's try to do a
Right.
virtual event. So we were going to do a virtual
Right.
event where we could meet all of the upper management of the Houston XFL, from the team owners and everybody, vice president, all of those people. We were going to have a big meeting with them, and we were going to use New Vodka as the sponsor and just work on establishing a relationship.
Right.
So hopefully, after the pandemic hits, we could just move forward, secure the deal, and bam. Well, something else happened.
Right.
What happened, or if I could use my bad English, what had happened was they decided
Right. Right.
to shut down the entire XFL. The
Right.
entire league had come to a quick halt. As fast as it began, it ended just as fast. So
Right.
there went our relationship, there went our deal. Albert, he got laid off, and then shortly thereafter, I got laid off. And so
Yeah.
here we are after the pandemic, and this is why we are talking about the pivot, because uh, we couldn't stay in that same position of not doing anything, right? So
Right.
now I want to talk about you and how you had to pivot during the pandemic.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So again, we were riding high, 5-0. We were on our way to New York. We actually our social media communications team was in New York. That was our next game that Saturday, and then our team went up there. I think they left Thursday, and so we got the news Friday that the league was going to be shut down, temporarily until further notice. We didn't know what was going on, and so our communication social media team were stuck in New York for about 2 weeks,
Oh wow.
as New York was kind of like the epicenter of kind of beginning of it. And so they were gonna try to bubble no fans and play that game on Saturday in New York, but just the cases were just rising. Nobody knew exactly what this was and what we were dealing with. So like you said, a screeching halt from one day to the next. The league found itself shutting down, and then it was about 30 days of us working from home, trying to figure everything out, and to where we got an email saying we need to jump on a Zoom call. I won't forget it. It was Friday, April 12th. I think it was April 12th, but it was a Friday.
Mhm.
It was the 12th or 13th. But yeah, we all got on as a whole. It was a league wide Zoom call, and we all got the news all at once, and that we were no longer gonna have our jobs, unfortunately, with the XFL. And so we were all devastated, if you could imagine. Because again, Houston specifically, I mean, the league as a whole was doing great, but we were 5-0,
Right.
going into the second half of the season, where hopefully we would continue to go undefeated, and we were going to be hosting our equivalent of the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
So it would have been here in Houston, and it would have been a great deal. So we were, like you said, we were going to work together and line some things up. It was going to be very exciting, and but yeah, kind of COVID happened. So just like everybody else in the world, when especially here in the States, lost a job trying to figure out what's next, what's going to happen. And so it was a lot of deep diving into internally.
Hmm.
Okay, so one, how do we deal with this pandemic that we really don't know too much about? Jobs are shut down. Do we take a job in the meantime, or unemployment, whatever the situation is? Well, first and foremost, I took that time to kind of just to make sure that I was safe and my family was safe, and
Hmm.
at least give it a little bit more time to figure out what was going on. And then probably say a month after being laid off, it was Memorial. I think we had then kind of slightly opened up a little bit. And we're in the state of Texas, so that meant almost just about all the way open. Uh, and so it was interesting, and it kind of goes to the podcast, and while we're talking is it was definitely a pivot that had to be done, because in my industry, in the sports industry, you know everything was shut down. So there was no alternative. Even if I wanted to go from, baseball or hockey or soccer, I mean, there wasn't no sports at all. And so the transition was non-existent, and so that added another element to it. Trying to figure out, what to do next, and so
Can I pause?
everything was online.
Can I pause you right
Sure,
there?
absolutely,
So I
absolutely.
want you to talk to us and tell us how you felt as a man, as the provider for your home. How did you feel when you no longer had a job and everything was just like at a standstill? What did you go through?
I don't think I missed the beginning of that question, but I think you said, just financially, how did
Not
how
not
did I
financially,
feel?
just how did you feel in general as a man, as the provider for
Mhm.
your
Okay.
household? and there was
Yeah.
no job, and nothing was really open. What did you really feel in those moments, in those days?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. It was a little bit of vulnerability. It's like, somebody coming to your home and taking everything, and then why before they leave, they're like, all right, well, figure it out.
Mm,
There's no stores open to replace your stuff,
mm-hmm,
you know. Um, and so it was a bit of vulnerability and scrambling, if you will, trying to figure out, okay, what to do next. It was just a lot of ups and downs, trying to figure out, do I get out of the sports industry? Do I go back to my financial background, which was predominantly in retail banking?
mm-hmm,
Do I go back that route, or do I offer, my marketing services to an online? It was there was so many different things, to figure out how I'm going to, continue to figure out how to provide, and figure this whole thing out.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and so, it was one of the one things that stuck out the most right out the back was that the emergence of online was prevalent. I mean, you had Netflix and, Zoom and all these other online tools that were utilized. And so it was like, okay, I need to figure out where I can, work within this space. I mean, there wasn't really, I mean, maybe there was like those 30 days from losing the job to when things kind of opened up in May, Memorial weekend. It was like kind of like that moment where you're like, shoot, this is horrible,
mm-hmm,
right? And trying to figure it out. But then it just kind of snapped where it's like, okay, what do we do from here? How do we figure this out? There wasn't really much time to just kind of sulk, or it was, how do we transition? How do we figure out what to do next? And so, one of the things that I did know, it was that, again, the sports world was at a shutdown. It was a huge pause.
mm-hmm,
And so, for me, I took it as an opportunity to try to, fine tune some things for myself, do some marketing stuff, certifications, whatnot, online, to kind of better myself while the world was at a screeching halt, in a sense. So, I did that, and got some certs, and kind of, got some online tools for me to, to kind of just improve my marketing acumen and business acumen. So, that's what I did. And then I got into podcasting, just like yourself. And so, because that was one of the things. Okay, look here. I'm at this point. I know a lot of people in the sports industry. I was predominantly in the basketball world, but found myself in the football world working with Mr. Brian Michael Cooper, who was the team president, and he was also the team president when I was with the RGV Vipers back in 2009. And so we had a great relationship, and we maintained that friendship. And so it only made sense, for me to come in and help him out. And so, I pretty much just used that network of my people to bring in and have everybody kind of tell their story. And so that's kind of where it started, to kind of begin branding myself, creating a podcast, creating a platform, for athletes and sports industry professionals to kind of tell their story, in a very intimate setting. And so I found myself doing that, and got some sponsors to do that as well. And so that was really cool. It was an amazing process. And so then it kind of, as 2020 kind of rolled out, I found myself in the crypto market early on.
uh-huh,
Now, one of my business partners, he's got a consulting firm, and he does a lot of work within the crypto blockchain community.
mm-hmm,
And so, it was interesting because there's this dynamic where, they're trying to bridge the gap between blockchain community and sports. And so, with my background in sports and marketing, he brought me in as a consultant to kind of fill that void. And so yeah, so I kind of just been from there working with him, and been blessed enough to travel quite a bit, throughout this pandemic, and get back, on the sports high horse, if you will, and get back in it as we see, things start to open back up.
yeah. And congratulations to you on just taking advantage of that downtime, taking advantage and getting those certifications and starting something new, pivoting into something new. And, I still connected with you or followed you on social media, and those trips were quite amazing. Just looking at those pictures from some of those trips, some of
Yeah.
those trips you went on, and so I didn't realize it was about blockchain and cryptocurrency. And so another thing you have
Right.
pivoted into, which is another thing that made me want to reach out to you. You are now the owner of Pivotal Sports Group. And the sports group
Right.
is
Right.
for
Yeah.
basketball, lifestyle, and blockchain technology intersect, cultivating a client first
Right.
cultural evolution. So tell us about
Yeah.
basketball, lifestyle, and blockchain technology.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, and the name, it kind of obviously very similar to your, to the segment here, pivotal. But it was one of those things where um, pivotal, it's used where it's something of importance, right?
Mhm.
It's like that moment, right? And then I got it from the derive of pivot, right? To be able to change, to move in another direction,
Mhm.
right? And that's where I kind of found myself at that moment, where it was like, here we are in a pandemic, or coming, hopefully coming to an end here shortly, hopefully, but things are opening up. But it was like, all right, I need to figure out what this agency means. And
Mhm.
so one of the things, there's multiple meanings, but obviously pivoting into another direction, starting something new, right? But also when you add in the blockchain of it, you're also kind of changing the industry, if you will, or disrupting the industry by adding something new and revolutionary that hasn't really been tapped into, um, on that front. So the name, we were kind of wrestling with it for some time to kind of figure out what our agency is going to mean moving forward. And so that's really, that though that word is really what kind of just describes our direction and where we want to go, right?
Mhm.
And how important it is at this time, right, to be able to transition and pivot, if you will. And so that's and that's kind of where the word and the name of our agency came about. Now, the agency, I mean, they're pretty much the same in terms of the industry, but we really wanted to focus on our client, right? The player being first. And so and that's why we have the blockchain and the lifestyle, because athletes now are not just focused on their on court contracts.
Mhm.
It goes beyond that. So they're looking at lifestyle, whether it's apparel, shoe deals, working with different brands,
Mhm.
uh, to blockchain, where now there's a whole nother segment where they can monetize their fans and really just focus on their engagement, right? And so it's another avenue for them to create revenue for themselves. One of the things that we want to focus on is that each athlete essentially is its own business, its own brand, its own business, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers to millions of followers. And so they're a business, they're an entity. And so as an agency, we want to be able to operate in that same manner and treat it that way, and provide them the avenues to do so, and to monetize their own likeness. And so that's where the blockchain is going to kind of what we're going to separate, and I'll go into that a little bit, but I don't want to give too much away. um
Gotcha.
but but yeah, so it's creating something new to kind of disrupt the market.
Gotcha. Now, for the listeners, I know a lot of people are uh, pretty new to their understanding of blockchain and
Mhm.
cryptocurrencies and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you give the navigators a quick elevator speech on what is
Yeah.
cryptocurrency or blockchain?
Right. Yeah. So blockchain is basically it's a huge ledger. It's an internet database, huge ledger where you can track from one transaction to the next. I mean, everything is It goes from one data point to the next data point, and it and the speed is beyond, fast and what we can recognize on the internet in terms of transactions, right? So if you go to, I don't know, a bank to wire money from one place to the next, there's a process to that. It takes time, it moves. Well, blockchain, transferring that data can be from one to the next, in matter of seconds. It doesn't have to have a middle person, right? So if I want to move money from me to you, then I can do that. And it'll be, just like that, and it'll be a ledger for it. It'll be complete transparency. So blockchain, in a sense, is created to kind of prevent fraud.
Okay.
Really, I mean, there's other elements to it, but I mean, that could be one usage of it. And so there's been a large adaption for that, for transactions, stuff like that, or it can be used for data tracing. I think the CDC used a little bit of blockchain technology to trace, people that have contracted, the COVID and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's been utilized there. I know it's utilized now in, like, the real estate world. And so going into cryptocurrency, I kind of see it as like, if I can describe it, to best example is like all these different cryptocurrencies, these altcoins are like emails, right? Different client emails. You got Gmail, you got Yahoo, you got all these different email clients, uh, but they don't work unless you have internet, right? And
Okay.
so blockchain is the internet in this, if you will, in this example, and all the altcoins are email clients. And so, and then of course it goes beyond that, because there's different functionalities to different coins and whatnot. And so that'll probably be a whole nother
Right.
conversation. But I mean, overall, that's pretty much, it's a new technology. It's kind of like what the dot-com era in the 90s, it's very similar, technology evolution.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and kind of breaking that down to us.
Yeah.
And so to see that you are incorporating, or that this is a part of your sports group, that's pretty
Right.
amazing, and that's pretty forward thinking for sure. You know, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's dope. So I congratulate you for
Appreciate
establishing
it.
that
Appreciate it.
and getting that off the ground. So what are some practices or mindsets or principles that you used to help you successfully pivot into where you are now?
Yeah. So again, yeah, it was more so the pause that was my main focus, was that once we come out of this, I want to be well equipped to right out the gate just start going. So it was I saw it as well, over time I saw it as a huge opportunity. So again, yeah, so it does go back to mindset. My mindset was really on figuring out what I'm going to do and what it's going to look like when this pandemic is done and over with, and how I can be competitive, amongst, established companies within this industry. And so my mindset was to, okay, well, what's going to set us apart, right? I can start an agency, you can start an agency, we can all start an agency, tomorrow. you
Mhm.
know of course, you got to have, the people that are in the industry to kind of make it work, but essentially an agency is an agency. So what really can you offer that's going to kind of set everything apart, right? And so that's where blockchain, in my opinion, was the biggest thing, because
Right.
we're in the agency, we're in a service industry, if you want to, like, really boil down to it. I mean, we're in the business to help our clients get the most money they can in the best circumstance and the best situation, right? And so, the linear approach to an agency is something that I did not want to do. Where it's like, okay, you try to find a client, you chase them down, if you will. That's basically what it is. And you try to gain the relationship, then to eventually sign them, right? And then once you sign them, whether they're rookie or veteran, then the next job is to get them their next contract, right? And then during the process of that, if your client is doing well or popular enough to get some endorsement deals, then you get them endorsement deals, and then you make sure you take care of them and get them ready for their next contract, right? It's just straight, you know. So, but I wanted to create something that kind of is getting out of that linear approach, and so blockchain is this new technology that kind of kicked off this year mainstream in January, February,
Mhm.
as Dogecoin and all those other popular altcoins kind of took the industry by storm, and the media. um so it was one of those things where, okay, how can we leverage an athlete utilizing the blockchain to be able to leverage their fans and their following. And so we have a tool. Obviously the biggest thing was NFTs, a non-fungible token,
Mhm.
and that's where kind of a lot of artists and music and a few athletes have kind of jumped on and took advantage of that. The NBA also took advantage of that as well, and they have this platform called NBA Top Shot, where you can buy NFTs, which are video highlights of players playing, highlights in their season, and then you can actually buy and own their highlights. And so it's a very interesting concept.
Wow.
It's really cool, cutting edge, and so that pretty much right there is kind of like that bridge, the introduction to the general fans and blockchain, right? So, and it's very seamless to where you don't feel like you're actually on blockchain, but you are. So when you go into their website, blockchain has the ability to create apps within the websites, and so they're called dApps. And so it's a blockchain a website called dApp, and where you can go in and purchase NFTs. That's what they are, and you can own them, but they're housed on the dApp, right, website. And so, and you can peer-to-peer sell, auction off. So it's really cool. And so, one of the things that from an NFT standpoint, you can do is create a utility function for it. And so that's where, I don't want to give too much away, but that's what
Right.
we're utilizing our athletes to leverage, is that and I'll give you an example. Let's say, X athlete gets signed by Nike, right? And so Nike says, "Hey, athlete, we want you to be at this location at this time, because you're going to have, fans. We're going to have you sign some shoes, and that's part of the contract, right? You have to show up and do certain events, right? And of course, you're getting paid for that, right? And so, who, aside from the appearance fee, who benefits from that?
I would
Nike,
Nike.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they get their sign at their endorsed athlete there, and they get to show off to the fans their signed athlete along with whatever shoe or apparel, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's all about putting a little bit more control back into the athlete. And so if I can figure out a way now to say, hold up, athlete, you essentially have millions of followers. You can do this yourself and then bring in the brand, right? And so that's where blockchain is so special in that function, to where there's abilities to do that. So what I'm putting together is kind of really to flip that, the control, in a sense, and put more control in the athlete, and because they are the leverage, um, and so that's kind of where I'm navigating and pivot, if you will, towards.
That's genius. That's innovative. That is so dope. Uh, wow.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And so you kind of already answered a question that I was going to ask you, which is, um, what are you working on that we should be looking out for? But you kind of answered that already. So,
Yeah.
um, my final question to you is, what message would you like to leave with people who are afraid to pivot?
You know what? I would probably say my message to everybody would be to, if you have a dream or a passion, go for it, and do not be afraid to fail,
Mm.
because it's the failures where we learn, right? And I know I'm probably quoting somebody, I don't know, but it couldn't be further from the truth, and another thing as well, it's one of those things where you kind of have to take the horse race approach and put on those blinders, because there's so many distractions, left and right. And if there's something you want to focus on, you have to put on those blinders. You have to go for it. Everybody's going to have an opinion, right? But and you listen to those that you opinions that you value. Not to say that you shouldn't listen to anybody, but if it's your dream and your passion, go for it and don't be afraid to fail. Because all to me, a failure is just a one way that I figured out that not to do it, right. And now I got to find a different way because that didn't work. So that's my approach, and I would love to, for your navigators to take that approach as well. I mean, just if there's anything that there's passion or dream about, just I go for it, because there's always gonna be something, right? You
Mhm.
know, oh, I got to do this before I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna get this ready before I do that, or no, just start now. Whether
Mhm.
it's a little bit, start little and then grow big. But life has a way of getting in way of a lot of things, where if we don't start now, we might find ourselves 5-10 years from now, like, dang. And then when you look back, you're like, "Oh, maybe I should have started." Right.
Right.
So yeah, don't let anything get in the way of your passion. Just go for it, and don't be, try not to be afraid as much as possible. And of course, do your due diligence and your education on it.
Mhm.
Definitely don't just jump out there.
Right.
But yeah, I would probably say, with all that being said, I would probably say, do not be scared. Do not be afraid to fail.
I love it. Don't be afraid to fail and take that horse race approach and put the blinders on. I like that. Put the blinders on.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Albert, for taking out time to share with the
absolutely. Thank
Navigators
you.
about your pivot and pivotal sports group. And before we go, could you let the listeners know how they can find you on social media?
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to follow the sports agency, it's pivotal underscore sports. I believe that's the one. It's one of the other. Twitter is pivotal dot sports. So hopefully I'm not saying them the other way around. But but if you want to follow myself, I have a consultant company that I own and operate. It's called 80 Sports Group. So it's going to be Albert underscore 80 Sports Group, and that'll be to follow myself. Or if you want to follow my consultant company, it's AD underscore sports underscore group. And that's where you can find me, or on LinkedIn, Albert Donald the third. You connect with me there. And yeah, I accept everybody. So you know there won't be any of that vetting. If you request it, I'm gonna accept.
All right.
But I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure, being able to share.
All right. Thank you again. And navigators, before we go, I just want to let you all know that I did write an ebook. It is called Pivot: 8 Keys to Reinventing Your Now. That ebook is available on Amazon Kindle for you to purchase. So go run on over to Amazon and get that ebook. It has a lot of little nuggets in there that can help you make that minor adjustment in your life. Okay. Thank you, navigators, for joining us. And until next time, keep going, navigators. Bye bye.